Hey, spiritual extremists, Dr. Lloyd-Moffett here in my office, and we are looking at Islamic mysticism here. And it is an interesting tradition for mysticism to happen. And let me try to explain why. When you look at Christian mysticism, what you see here is a unique bridge in the person of Jesus and the Holy Spirit, because you have something that can offer a means by which the individual can approach the incomprehensible source, the Godhead itself. Judaism doesn't have that Trinity, but what we saw in the Sephirot was an explanation of God that is grounded in this idea of an inner life of God. That, yes, there's an incomprehensible source, but that incomprehensible source plays itself out in these competing emanations. With Islam, though, the cornerstone of Islam is the complete transcendence of God. God does not divide itself up into a trinity, has no human portions to it. Muhammad is by no means divine in any way. And so you just don't have any of those metaphysical bridges. The oneness of God, Tawheed, is essential. And so without a sort of natural bridge, without something that's not totally transcendent, Islam structurally plays in a different realm than Judaism and Christianity, because it just doesn't have that natural way of conceiving of God, which would give you something to unify with in that sense. Now, the other thing I would say too is Christianity particularly had a long history of monasticism and asceticism, stuff that allows you to deny yourself in order to reach something higher. Islam traditionally didn't have that as well. It was something that really valued marriage and family. Judaism had that issue too, even though there were celibate groups within Judaism. But nonetheless, the thing that allowed Islam to develop a mystical tradition is a particular story with the Prophet Muhammad, and it goes like this. Muhammad lived in Mecca, the city of Mecca, and the holiest spot in Mecca is called the Kaaba. And one time he went to go visit some family near the Kaaba, and he fell asleep near the tomb. And in the midst of that night, there's a story that is captured in the Quran as follows. Limitless is glory is he who transported his servant by night from the inviolable house of worship to the remote house of worship, the environs of which we had blessed, so we might show him some of our signs. Now, a couple things to note. The we here is God and the angels, so still you have complete monotheism. But what is told here is a story in which Muhammad was transported from Mecca to Jerusalem, to the original temple of the Jews. And there he ascended into heaven. And it's a really interesting story if you follow through here, because it's said that he went to the exact spot of the Holy of Holies and then climbed a sort of ladder and got views of the differences in it. And it says that Adam presides over the first layer of heaven, and there Muhammad got to see down into hell. Jesus and John the Baptist are in the second. Joseph is in the third realm of heaven. Who knew that? Enoch is in the fourth. Pretty good for Enoch. Moses in the fifth. Aaron is in the sixth. And Abraham is in the seventh. And Muhammad got to ascend through all these layers of heaven. Now, it says that he didn't quite see God, because that would be way too anthropomorphic, disturbing the Tawheed, the oneness and transcendence of God. But it says that he saw signs and symbols of that one God. So he came closest to as any human has to seeing God. And the Islamic mystical traditions wants to replicate that experience, to stand in front of God having gone through the heavens. And so while there is not a natural connection per se in Islam, because of that fierce oneness and indivisibility of God, you do have an example in the Prophet himself for something that would lift you up and connect you to God through this Quranic verse telling that Muhammad did that first. So what would Muhammad do? He would ascend through the heavens and get to have a face-to-face encounter with the divine source.